Yeah, I was watching some, I forget who it was, some big Twitch streamers playing it. He stopped 15 minutes in because he said it hit too close to home.
Save that for the show. God damn it, you can't blow your load that fucking quick.
Oh, I'll put it as the cold open. I'll make that the cold open. Welcome, everyone, to episode 32 of the MGTOW Podcast, your only weekly source for interviews with game developers who are the most wanted man on the planet. As always, I'm producer Tim. Joining me is the mayor of MGTOW. Say hi, Drexel.
Hello to everybody in the world.
And welcome a very special guest into the studio today, Mr. Team Sneed, developer of Cuck Simulator. Say hi to the audience.
Hey, everyone.
Drexel.
He's so busy.
We got him. We got him. I feel like I'm at the podium right now telling everyone I just shot Osama bin Laden. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got Team Sneed. Well, you know what, Sneed? I did not know about this game until I think it was around the time that you did your interview with Nick. So you did your interview with Nick. I watched a good chunk of your interview. So I picked up on a few things I remember from there. And then, of all people, it was Ty Beard, Vic Mignogna, told me to watch the trailer, right? And so I'm thinking like, okay, Ty, let me see about if this game is the real deal. I watched the trailer, and it's outright fucking hilarious, right? Because like if you know anything about this world, this lifestyle, the trailer is actually spot on. Because in the lifestyle, you know, the bull cuck relationship, swinger, hot wife, you know, queen of spades, all these things you hear, all of your scenarios in your game, Sneed, are real scenarios, right? Like it is a real scenario for a mandingo to be sitting there literally plowing a white chick, and whether the cuck knows or doesn't. Sneed, I got a question. Did you ever see the movie Boogie Nights? Do you remember William H. Macy's character? Do you remember that guy?
I definitely have not, no.
Oh, well, he was a cuck. His wife in the movie was played by porn star Nina Hartley. So throughout the movie, it's like a running gag where she's literally just getting smashed by other dudes. At one point in the movie, he's looking for his wife, right? He's walking around the pool party going, "What the hell? Have you seen my wife? Have you seen my wife?" And he gets to I can't make this up. He's in the driveway and he sees a crowd of people on his driveway. He goes like, "What the hell?" He walks over. It's his wife getting smashed and a bunch of people like in a circle looking at her get ran through. And I'm just like, this is this guy's life, man. Ugh. But Sneed, I got to ask you, what was your inspiration for the game?
A little bit of everything. Slight inspirations by some people I know, people I've seen online, other sorts of scenarios. Mostly a critique on society as it is now, I suppose.
You know, one of the things that you talk about, it's something I've talked about quite often on Nick's show, is the normalization, the disturbing normalization of cuckoldry, polyamorous relationships, and all that. What is your opinion on the state of society and the polyamorous movement that's being pushed through the media, and how that fits into your game?
So the whole polyamory movement strikes me as a bit weird. I mean, on the surface, it goes against the whole the nuclear family thing, which has kind of been the foundation of this country, and I guess kind of all stable societies in a way. But what strikes me about it is the people who generally involve themselves in that are like not the desirable type of people, I guess you say. It's like that image with the fat girl on the couch with the 4 dudes flanking her, and they're not good.
You know, Steve, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to point out something. Donovan Sharp had a screen grab on his show once in his community tab about there's this misconception about polyamory, right? There's the perception, which is like, Leo DiCaprio, one high value man with a bunch of hot chicks, right? That's the people's perception. And then there's the reality, which is what you just described, which is a literal land whale with guys who in any other circumstance would just be incels, right? These are guys that could never get laid, even if they paid.
I think the fantasy of it is better than the reality of it for 99% of the people involved.
Absolutely. Well,
because even those type of, like, with the undesirable people, you still get the typical trappings of it, like the jealousy and all this,
You do. Well, one of those guys ended up like beating the kid or something and I think he's sentenced. You heard about that, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
You know what I found funny, Sneed, is that Nick was the one who introduced me to that whole story. Because when you see something, kind of like the Piper Perry meme, right? You see something and you laugh about it just because you're like, oh, I know what this is. And then Nick goes, no, Drex, I want you to take a look at this picture with the land whale and her simps, right? Her simp orbiters. He goes, Nick tells me, I want you to guess which one abused a child. Sneed, I kid you not. In literally 0.2 seconds flat, I went, this dude. Nick goes, yep.
I think physiogenics has been very much downplayed. Its reliability.
Well, one of the things, Sneed, that I find disheartening is they do this push, and they're pushing this without understanding what makes men and what makes women women. So women will share a high value man, and the reason for that is because what women seek men for is provision and protection. That's why a bunch of women can share a man. Let's face it, from a biological standpoint, physiological, a woman can get pregnant, right? She could be caring for a kid. A guy can get multiple women pregnant and have a huge family because they will share that man, considering, hey, I got all my needs. Let's say he's a king, right? He's a king, just any high value man. As long as he can take care of all those women don't mind sharing him. Like women, this has always been known. Women would rather share a high value, desirable guy rather than get a low value beta simp cuck all to themselves. They don't want that. So the opposite is true of men. Due to the male sex drive, if you tell so Sneed, let's just say mid-value guys, right? Like they're not the top of the food chain, but they certainly aren't those guys in that picture with the land whale, right? They're just mid-value guys, like regular dudes. Let's say on a scale, they're somewhere between, let's say, how about a 5 and a 7, right? So average to above average. If you ask guys between a 5 and a 7, hey, are you willing to share this one chick? They're gonna look at you like you're insane, because that's not what men seek. Men seek women for primarily for sexual access, right? Sexual exclusivity. That's why if you are a prostitute as a female, you lose value in a man's eye. So a man will be like, oh, hey, I'll take a ride on the bicycle, but I'm not going to commit. You see what I'm saying? So this whole push doesn't fit what is natural to men and women and their desires and what they seek. But, we look at this normalization. Where do you feel it's going from here?
Downhill. Very much downhill, because the problem is a lot of the men who are pushing for this sort of thing are the ones who ultimately suffer from it. Because when you have like hypergamy of men, like men going after, or I guess women going after the same high value man, it's middle of the line men that suffer the most, because the whole monogamous structure that we've kind of set up so that working men can, like, have a wife and whatever, it's just being destroyed from the ground up. And that has a lot of implications for society as a whole, I think.
I agree 200%. And, we've seen this, with other like agendas, as, agendas start to collapse under the weight of reality. That's just how life works, right? And I do have a question for you. When it came to making this game, when it comes to the backstory, what was your backstory for the cuck? Like, do you ever have, like, or did you just kind of make him as a generic, like, he's just a cuck?
So starting with the character model, which was the first thing I made, it was actually intended to be an incel. So if you'll notice, he kind of looks like a combination between the no chin guy meme and Elliot Rodgers a little bit.
Yep.
And then at some point I decided that making a game with a lot of punchlines about an incel was probably a little time consuming. So I decided to pivot over to a cuckold game because the jokes write themselves. It's just reality. I don't even have to make content. I just have to kind of put in what people already do, and it's content in itself.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because something that hit me when you were doing your interview with Nick is that, I don't know if Nick asked you this question, but did you ever think about if you were going to do a prequel or a sequel based on the origins of a cuck? Like, let's say we go in the backstory of this guy and we see his dad, or how did he become that way, or something like that. Did you ever think about doing something like that?
Oh God, there's no way this guy has a dad.
No, dudes like this can. So remember, there's two kinds of cucks. There are cucks who come from single moms, and then cucks who come from weak beta male fathers. Sometimes you can have a strong father and still come out of cuck. I believe, and I'm not joking when I say this, I'm not being facetious. I truly believe that the bitch made gene is just that. It's a gene. And to prove it, Sneed, would you consider Jerry Falwell Sr. to be a bitch made simp beta cuck?
Can you tell me who that is first?
Oh, he's a religious zealot he was always in it with Larry Flynt, the famed pornographer and founder of, I believe was it Hustler? Yeah, Hustler was Larry Flynt.
I've never heard.
He was similar to like Jimmy Graham. He had like a Jimmy Graham kind of disposition. Like, so the thing is, he wasn't bitch
I don't know
made.
who that is either.
Oh, really? Oh, Jesus.
I might be dating myself here, but
well, you know what though? That's not what's important. What's important is that his son, Jerry Falwell Jr., was caught red-handed on video being a cuck. Literally, his wife was smashing the pool boy. Like, we can't make this shit up.
I do think that in general, a lot of things can be attributed to genetics that people don't necessarily want to, or because like you look at like dogs, for example, like we fully accept that certain traits in dogs and stuff can be bred, like intentionally bred, right? So
yep.
Why wouldn't that apply to humans too, right? I mean, that's logical, yeah.
Well, the reason why I say that, Sneed, is that if you start to think about this for a second, right? We talk about genetics, things like that, but let's face it. At the end of the day, a society can try to breed simps and cucks, but not everyone's going to take that programming, right? Like, a lot of us went to public school, but not all of us, were fully indoctrinated. Like, we sat there and some people questioned it, right? Like, there was a point where they're like, wait a minute, something's wrong with this. Like, the way they're teaching us, the way that they're trying to put all the boys on meds, like something's off. Whereas other people just, yep, give me my meds. And, it's okay to like a girl who you're not attracted to. Yep, okay, she's a queen. And then you see that conditioning later on turning into, well, Sneed, I guess I have to accept that, my wife has a boyfriend. You see how there's like a steady progression? Because if you were to ask most guys, Sneed, when they were, how about dating age, which is around 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that age. Let's say from dating age to about 25, if you asked most guys to take a glimpse into a crystal ball and they saw themselves as cucks, they would say, no way, right? It's a slow progression. It's just like
a progression. You're right.
It's progression. Because Sneed, if you asked a woman, hey, Susie, I'm going to show you a glimpse into your future with this guy that you just met on the third date. And then she sees herself, with broken ribs and punched out, or let's just say the War Machine and Christy Mack treatment, right? Where she got her teeth knocked out. If Christy Mack looked into the future, she would go, no way. There's no way that could happen. But see, the same thing happens with men. You can be a battered man. It just takes effect differently. Women don't break men down and destroy them with using their hands and feet. They use their mind. It's all
demoralization. Yeah.
It's all demoralization, right? Like, it's just as vicious. So a guy beating down a woman, which means he is taking what makes him a man, his dominance over her. His advantage over her is physical strength, right? And then her advantage over him is manipulation and deception. So if you see someone who is a cuck, like, prime example, do you remember watching the Matrix movie with the Wachowski at that time brothers, right? Emphasis on bros.
Yeah.
You see what happened to them now? Where they're at now?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
that's
now
a can of worms.
Now, Sneed, even if we just dispel the whole, we're not even going to talk about, gender dysmorphia. We're not going to talk about anything like that. If you were to ask Larry Wachowski, right? He was the first one who transitioned. If he was going to cut his dick off, if you had asked him that, let's say 10 years before The Matrix, and he met that dominatrix who beat out all of his masculinity, whatever was left in there to begin with, right? He would have said, no way I'm cutting off my dick, right?
Yeah, no, I've seen the downfall of man happen over like years with people I know from not really respectable people, but doing their thing to just completely detestable former shells of themselves, doing things that they probably never thought they'd do, taking care of kids that aren't theirs and sexual scenarios that they probably shouldn't be in. It's crazy.
Now, Sneed, that's going to lead me into the next question I got for you, man. What is your experience, if any, with the lifestyle or even people that you know in that lifestyle, the bull cuck thing?
I personally don't know anybody in the bull cuck thing, but I do know people in, I guess, the polyamory community.
And go ahead, Sneed, for all the audience out there who's going to listen to this, whose idea is it 100% of the time to have an open relationship?
Oh, it's the woman. It's always the woman. And the man goes along with it for various reasons, the least of which being he doesn't think he can find a replacement for her. If he's super delusional, if he's really delusional, he might think he can bring in another girl. That never happens. That never happens.
Sneed, I got to tell you some real shit, man, from personal experience as the bull. There have been instances, right? There's hotel takeovers, there's swing clubs, there's all these kinds of things, right? I kid you not. I'm going backwards, Sneed. 2005 is when I entered the game, right? I entered the lifestyle at 2005 at 22, 23 years old, right? Every one of these dudes, without fail, I'm not joking, all of them, they were one of two things. She can do whatever she wants because, I love her so much and I want her to have other lovers. That was one type, right? The other type, and this is actually what you just touched on, which is more delusional, more disturbing. No, Sneed. I mean, notice I said we, right? We are in the lifestyle. And I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, she gets to have a little fun with the guys. I'm definitely going to bring girls home. You talk to that guy in 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, and you ask him how much sex has he gotten with other women. If he's lucky, do you know what the best he can hope for, Sneed? Is a goddamn pity fuck from another chick, right? They meet up with another couple. One of my girls actually went on a swingers cruise. It's called Bliss. There's a Bliss. This is obviously right before the pandemic. This would have been back in November 2018 is when she went. So she went on this Bliss cruise. And one of the things I learned early on in the lifestyle, Sneed, was the hierarchy, right? There is a hierarchy, a sexual marketplace hierarchy. And you learn quick what relationships really are, because in the let's just call it the real world. In the real world, people believe that these women actually love these men, which they most certainly do not. They just see them as a walking ATM, a resource provider. But what you learn in the lifestyle, though, is that you go like this. Hold on. You've heard the term hot wife, right, Sneed?
Oh, yeah.
You are fully aware of hot wives and Queen of Spades and the tattoos that these women get. What ends up happening, what you learn quickly as the bull is you're like, wait a minute. This chick, whether she's at the wall, just before the wall, or post wall, you realize quickly, in terms of level of attraction, she could go into a bar right now and get plenty of dudes. But you look at the guy and you're like, this dude couldn't get shit on a good night, right? So it hits you. You're like, wait a minute. It makes sense. Do you know what these sick beta cuck simps mentality is, Sneed? They're like this, but she's coming home to me.
That was Destiny. Destiny said that.
Oh, wait, so who said that?
Yeah, Destiny. He's Sneed, do you know who Destiny is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse Lee Peterson roasted him. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's a girl's name.
That he did where he's like, I'm in a polyamorous relationship, okay? Because he said, I don't care. I don't gatekeep the fuck out of my girlfriend because I know she's coming home to me at night because I'm a really cool guy. Steve, what kind of mental defect do you need to truly believe that? The amount of delusion.
I think the human brain is capable of coping with some severely fucked up shit if it has to.
We asked a question earlier and we didn't give you a chance to answer it. Did you come up with a backstory for the cuck in your game?
Honestly, so the way I make this game and all the patches and everything is I do it literally like one dialogue line at a time. I don't have any sort of set direction or anything in my head. It's kind of all ad lib in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So no, there's not really a backstory. So if I was to make like a backstory, like prequel sort of patch, it would just be off the top of my head at this point.
Because I know this project of yours kind of, you build it kind of like phased release in project. We call it phased release in project management, where like the game was ready to play and you had a couple of things already planned out, and then you just kind of start building on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's great. And, you know, Sneed, we talked about something before we officially got started. You know, you said that you talked to someone where it hit too close to home. Can you describe conversations you've had with, whether it be people you know personally or people who have responded to the game, from the cuck's perspective? People who will say, hey, man, this is my experience as a cuck, and this is what it's like. Can you talk about that?
I actually haven't gotten any feedback like that. And the few people I do know who are in that sort of relationship, they're still in the denial part where they don't think they're being cucked, but they're being cucked. And they just don't know it yet.
Drexel, you know this well.
Yeah.
That is sad. And, you know, Sneed, I touched on Jerry Falwell Jr. being a cuck earlier with his wife smashing the pool boy. What is your take on the fact that there are left and right wing cucks? Because they do it in different ways.
The left wing cucks can make, like, I can figure them out in my head. The right wing cucks, I can't figure them out.
Well, they're chameleons. Drex, we know this. A lot of people that we respect on the political right of the spectrum, they're chameleons. They have no principles to stand on. They would sell themselves out in a heartbeat for even the taste of hot pussy.
Yeah, well, okay, so the thing is this. Being in the lifestyle taught me something. Where cuckoldry comes from, right? It comes from the same place. Pussy worship. So if someone says, hey, Sneed, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you rank vagina in terms of your, you know, what's important in your life? Well, a guy like you may rate it low, right? You're like, yeah, I mean, it's not even a need. It's just a glorified want at best, maybe. Maybe that's your answer. Maybe it's not. But one thing I know it's not is that you don't pedestalize pussy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you did, it goes back to what you said earlier, right? Where you said, hey, there are guys out there who feel that they can't get better. And that's kind of sad, is that, you know, these guys who have this scarcity mindset, but there's not much you can do about that because, you know, we've talked about this on this show, which is you can't save these guys. And I'm sure, you know, you've dealt with that too, where, you know, you try to reach out and try to be like, hey, man, you know, she's disrespecting you, and they'll get mad at you. Have you ever been in that scenario?
Yeah, I had a friend who he was deployed and his wife suggested an open relationship. And he did all the typical coping mechanisms and refused any outside input and all that. So I'm sure you know how it went.
Yeah. Well, Sneed, that actually leads into another question. One thing that I don't know if you've been noticing this, but there's been a larger push along with polyamory to start pegging dudes. Have you started noticing more of that kind of talk getting seeped into the general lexicon?
I've definitely noticed more women with strap-ons.
Yep.
Oh God, you have to do a pegging DLC.
As like OnlyFans content.
Yep.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
It's weird. It's really weird.
Well, a lot of it is penis envy. And, you know, we had, there's a girl I know that we call Becca the Ass Wrecker, and she came on to do a show where we talked about the state of the union with all these bitch-made dudes out here who are cucks and simps. but there are more dudes out there than a lot of people would care to believe that are getting pegged by either their girlfriend, their wife, or they, worse yet, they're paying women to come and peg them.
Did you ever have anybody ask to be pegged by you when you were in the scene?
Nope, never. So here's what ended up happening. This is what you'll come across when you're the big black guy, right? When they're like, oh, we're looking for BBC. Usually any like little requests get shut down fairly early in the process, right? Like I'll give you an example. The profile will say something like, you know, he's open-minded, or he's an oral bottom or something. Nope, that's an automatic no. Anything that involves the dude being suspect in my book is an automatic no. But what I did see, and I actually talked about this in one of the days of Thotmas, is a lot of these guys, Sneed, are very self-aware. These guys know that being part of the rainbow community, and especially when you're the bottom, is like the lowest level for a man. So what ends up happening is they try to pretend they're just like your bro. Like, oh yeah, my wife is she's a great time and she can really take the D. And then weird shit will happen. Like, oh hey, you were smashing my wife and your dick popped out. Let me help you put it back in. No. You busted on her chest. Let me lick that up. No. Hey, it's all right if these guys always have some weird shit going on. And it's just one of these things that I don't think people are fully aware of. But one of the things about your game, when you were talking to Nick, that I don't know if you guys ever got to, did you ever consider doing a DLC from another perspective, like Stacy or Chad or Tyrone?
I'd planned to add those as kind of like NPCs, but as far as like a perspective from them, I haven't really floated that idea yet. I've got like 20 different ways I want to go, and I just don't have enough time to do everything I want to do as it is. It's kind of a problem.
I heard you're getting pulled in so many different directions, and people are just sending you all these suggestions. How do you manage through all of it?
I just ignore it and do my own thing, honestly. I don't have enough resources of my own to like do half the shit I just want to do, let alone the stuff other people want me to do. Or a lot of the times, like the technical expertise for it, because like I said on Nick's stream, I'm not a game dev at all. It's just something I wanted to make, so I'm fumbling through it.
It was a pet project, and you had the base skill, but you weren't an experienced game developer. So you just self-taught all of this, right? First of all, what Cuck Simulator is available through Steam. What did you write it in? Which language?
It's all just made in Unity, which is C# at its base.
Yeah. And are you a programmer by trade?
No. Like I've done some I guess like little hobby projects for myself, but if I had to like apply for a company or apply to a company in a programmer position, they would not hire me. I'll put my skills that way.
Well, one of the things that I do have a question for you is, what is your opinion of games as a medium in general?
I was just gonna get there. Like, look at the AAA today.
Yeah, I don't like the way the industry's going.
Oh, what, you didn't like The Last of Us Part 2?
I mean, it was a good game, but it had its faults.
Well, I think
the problem is it's the sort of people who want to get into game development have certain political pinnings, and these people also cannot separate business and pleasure, so to say. Mm-hmm. Everything has to be a medium to push the view.
That's just sad, man. Nick talked about the fact that he loves these quick games. He can just hop in and play and hop out. He talked about your guys, you put in Cuck Souls, where your character is even more worthless, and then you patched it to make him even more worthless. So can you talk about that? Like just making a cuck even more useless?
I have a lot of ideas for the little side games, but the big problem with that is actually making them happen, because I don't know what I'm doing in Unity, to be completely honest.
Well, one of the things is I remember hearing that you had a lot of success with the game, and my question is did you ever expect this kind of reaction to the game?
Oh no, definitely not, because The way Steam does like their internal promotion of games, it's very hard to get any sort of traction on the platform itself, because I haven't done any marketing or external advertising. I bought like $50 of 4chan ads. It didn't go very far, but like the most of it has just been from organic Steam traffic somehow. Because when I first made this, I made it for myself and some friends just kind of as a joke. I made like the little opening sequence and sent it to them. And then I kept doing a little more work here and there. I'm like, oh, this game is actually pretty fleshed out now. I should like publish it on Steam because it's only $100. So I did that. And I'm like, well, maybe I can get my $100 back. That was kind of like my only initial goal. And it's definitely gone way beyond that. Very surprised.
I love those success stories. When you spoke about your friends, oh, what's that?
In a way, Drex, even this show took that kind of a trajectory too. Like, I never expected we would do as well as we are with this show. Like, I know that a lot of Knicks fans have begged you for the better part of 2 years now to do your own thing, but I was always of the opinion that, okay, we'll do our own thing. We'll just, we'll pump out an episode every month or every week, and we'll see how it goes. But by all objective measurements, this show has been a resounding success.
Yeah, well, I love. Well, here's the thing: when you do something that you enjoy doing, and when I was on Nick's show, I would, Nick is my one of my oldest friends. I would just come over there, and my daughter's hanging out with his kids. I'm hanging, we're chilling, and I'd be like, oh yeah, he asked me like, hey, Drex, you want to come on the show? So that's how it all began. And I just did an episode recently about friendship, and you just spoke, Sneed, about your friends. Can you talk about your friends' input and their reaction to you making this game?
So I made it, and I just uploaded the game files to the Discord. I'm like, look at this funny game I found. And at the time, it was just the title screen and the opening sequence up until you open the bedroom door, and then it ended. And it's just like 10 of us in the Discord server, and they all thought it was hilarious. I'm like, oh shit, where'd you find this dude? So I'm like, I just made it actually, and then it just went from there.
So did any of them test your game first? Like, did you use them as like your test audience?
Yeah, for like the first build of it, when I was trying to figure out, I guess like what people's natural inclinations are in the game, because a lot of it's a little bit obtuse. It doesn't really tell you what to do, and the UI is janky and all this sort of thing. So I had them play it blind so I could, like make changes, kind of figure out how people approach the game. Also a little bug testing in here and there.
Of course. Well, a lot of these games now, as you know, are being brought to market, and they have far more resources than you have, and they're broken, right? Like they release broken. You're like, wait a minute, you guys have billions of corporate dollars behind you, and you released a broken, a game that needs day one patches, right? Like that's kind of pathetic when you think about it. Like, do you ever kind of sit back and go, what if, like, what if I were, a guy who really was the skilled guy in this, particular profession, and had all these resources, all these developers and testers and everything, and programmers, and you spoke about earlier about just the state of the industry, which is there are these companies, mega corporations, right? EA, Activision, Konami, Naughty Dog, who are releasing products that raise eyebrows in terms of quality, whether it be storytelling or agenda, or with the latest Madden game, I believe it was this year or last year, they even used some of the things from like Madden 2019. So Madden 2020 had Madden 2019 like billboards actually in the game because they're that lazy. That's kind of sad, from a developer perspective, that you can make a game as one guy. And in some ways, make a much more successful game as just a guy.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's at least that it kind of appeals and fills a niche that hasn't been filled before. But I mean, game dev is hard, and I think a lot of these companies have issues with getting in over their heads on projects, and they have to meet deadlines, so they just shit out whatever they got, good or bad. It's definitely like the industry as a whole has definitely become less like passion motivated and more money oriented in the past, I guess, like 20 years or so.
Yeah, I've noticed it quite often, and I'm curious to know what kind of games did you play growing up that may or may not have contributed to not necessarily Cup Simulator, but like just you wanting to develop your own game in general. Like, what kind of games did you play growing up?
I was mostly a Nintendo kid growing up, so I mostly played that. Got into PC gaming probably 2010, and since then, I mostly just play like Dark Souls type of games. It's the only thing I really enjoy anymore. I don't play many other games now.
What did you think of the Metroid Dread trailer?
I thought it was kind of cool. I remember when they shelved the original concept for that some 17, 18 years ago, whatever it was.
Yep.
But the whole run away from monster chasing you thing is kind of overplayed at this point, I think.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've always said that a lot of these games need to do is that, like, you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. Games are what they are, right? Like, all games now especially have the same, we're just gonna stick with console. All console games have the same controller, right? You have 2 analog sticks, a D-pad, 4 face buttons, and 2 shoulder buttons, right? So how you control the game is going to be basically the same, right? And then the genres themselves have already been well established over, we're into 4 decades of video games. So the question is, what are you going to do that's new for a lot of these games? Like, one of the things I think Nintendo has succeeded at is taking something that you've known for years and just tweaking it, right? Like, the new Zelda Breath of the Wild feels familiar, right? Like, you can play it and go like this, ooh, this feels like Zelda, but it's an evolved Zelda. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Zelda's a good example, and then you have bad examples like what they've done to the Pokemon franchise.
Yeah, I never played Pokemon, but I've heard from people. I know this latest one was considered a letdown, right?
Oh yeah, they're trying to do too much.
They've all been letdowns ever since. I guess like XY was probably the last one that was well received by people. I mean, part of it is Game Freak they don't have like much expertise in 3D. They did not handle well switching over to that.
Do you think they should switch back to 2D? Because I remember when Pokemon came out, I was in high school, and I remember that was on the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color. It would have been at that time. So I remember Pokemon was like a sensation, right? I remember Pokemon and Magic the Gathering kind of really took off around that same time, like kind of like late 90s was kind of like the time. And you talked about, obviously with 3D, some games made the jump. If you can recall, Sneed, Metroid was a big Nintendo franchise that did not make the jump to 3D with the N64. You had Metroid was on Nintendo, and then of course Metroid 2 on Game Boy, Super Metroid on SNES, and then for whatever reason, and I think smartly, Nintendo did not have a Metroid on 64. Metroid did not go into 3 dimensions until Prime on the GameCube years later. So, like, what do you think is the hardest thing to do when it comes to 3D games versus a 2D?
I think some types of games transition better than others. Like something like Zelda transitions really well. I think with Metroid Prime, they did as good as they could have done with it, because like Super Metroid translating into like a 3D game, I feel like doesn't work so well. But
agreed,
they kind of tweaked the formula with Prime, and it kind of worked. But
I love
the biggest issue as it relates to some of the genres like Pokemon is just the people involved. They were 2D people, and they had them do 3D, and it's just not working out. They don't have the kind of manpower skills that they need to do it, and a lot of it is just they don't really have a reason to do it, because they're shoveling out bad games, and they're still making record-breaking sales every time. So it's like, why bother? There's no reward for it or punishment.
Is there any part of you that's kind of excited to, kind of like I don't know if it's a fleeting excitement, but for them to kind of make like a back to basics Pokemon the same way Metroid Dread has hit? Because from what I saw, Tim and I watched some of the E3 trailers, and from everyone I've talked to, they are extremely excited for this new Metroid, because this is our first 2D Metroid in years, right? On a main console. Obviously, I'm not talking about Other M and some of the Game Boy ones, but this is our first.
Oh, fuck Other M.
Yeah, that game never happened. And if you think about it, Sneed, do you feel that Pokemon would really benefit from a back to basics version? Just, hey man, how about we go 2D and just make it the best 2D Pokemon?
I think it would, and I think they probably would, because you saw it in like PC indie games where pixel graphics made a huge comeback.
Huge.
Yeah,
Huge.
people like the I think it kind of fits the format better anyway. Like, unless they wanted to go all out and make like a proper Breath of the Wild style Pokemon game, they should just kind of stick with what's gotten them this far.
My theory is that people will always adapt to a good video game story. If your story is solid, your gameplay mechanics, the controls are solid, they will like what you present to them. So you have you have all the indie games that are bringing back retro style, 2D scroller, bullet time, and like people. I don't know a lot of people who say, "Well, I'm a huge fan of bullet time games." Well, I don't know if that's a thing, but I do know people who love a good story. And if you have a good story and your game happens to be of the bullet style, then people will still like the game.
See that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Sneed, do you have a preference personally for 2D versus 3D?
I think 2D is better because it lets you focus more on. Are you talking about games in general or one specific?
Yeah,
franchise?
like as a general rule of thumb, if someone said list your favorite games, like, how about your top? If someone just said, like, in your mind, if someone said, like, let's say your top 10 or 20 games, do you find that you have more of your top games being 2D or 3D?
It's probably more 3D at this point, just because I think it's harder to make a better 3D game, but you get to be more expansive with it. There's a lot of things you can do in 3D you can't do in 2D, but not vice versa. I mean, it also depends on the type of game. Like for platformers, 2D all day, not even close.
Absolutely, yeah. Did you play Celeste? Did you try that one?
Oh yeah, I love that game. I don't
Love
like
it.
I don't like the politics behind it, but it's a really
Yeah. You know what? One of the things about Celeste was that it's one of those games where, like, you could literally ignore all that, right? Like, you could just play the game, but whatever. Yeah, I'm just here to play the challenging quest.
Shoehorned in at the end. Like,
yeah, shoehorned in. Yeah,
it's a really well made game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that Nick and I talked about is, Nick and I did a stream where we played through the new Streets of Rage. Do you see kind of like, we talk about some of these genres that are, resurging, right? What do you think about the beat 'em up making a comeback?
I think it's interesting because I grew up playing those sorts of games in like Laundromat arcades. They were always there.
Wasn't that the best shit, man?
They kind of vanished from existence, and now they're doing like 3D remakes of them. It's weird. I like it though.
Well, Sneed, Nick and I talked about this off stream. I have a theory on why the 2D beat 'em up kind of got phased out, similar to the space shooter, right? Like the R-Types and Galagas of the world, games like that. My theory is this: it was not just return on investment, but like it became a matter of value for the player, right? Like, you remember getting those games back in the 90s where if I said, hey, Sneed, I'm going to the store to buy Streets of Rage, right? Or Final Fight. The nature of a beat 'em up, because it's similar to the arcade, style, is you and your buddy or buddies sit down, you play a game. The game itself is static, right? Here's the enemies that you fight. Here's the bosses you fight in the level. You beat the game. But the cost of a game is, based on what era you grew up in, is $50 to $60, right? To justify that purchase by modern standards for that genre is insane. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, because look at how much playtime, right? Like, if I were to ask you, hey, Sneed, person A bought Skyrim or Breath of the Wild or Smash Bros for $60. If you were to look at their hours clocked, it's infinite, right? Now compare that to a 2D beat 'em up. Once you beat the game, maybe one or two times, you unlock the stuff. you're done with the game. So your total hours may not even exceed 20. And I think that's where, ironically enough, beat 'em ups are making a comeback due to the fact that, you said earlier, it is art style. You don't need to make them these huge 3D games. You can make the 2D sprites or the cell shaded art, which is what Streets of Rage use. And when someone says, "Hey Drex, are you willing to spend $20 to $30 on Streets of Rage?" Absolutely. But if someone asked me for 60, I would say no. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess the distribution has also helped a lot because you got all the digital marketplaces now, which let you distribute the low cost games, which otherwise would never get a physical release.
Absolutely.
So the whole dead period of like 2000 to 2010.
Oh yeah.
Drexel and I've talked about the emergence of the mobile game with the microtransactions and the loot crate systems that are hitting the AAA titles now.
I hate it so much.
My opinion is that this will kill the game industry. The blatant greed shown where you release like half a game and then force people to pay $29.99 to finish the game.
I believe I actually disagree with Tim. See, I agree that it's a problem, but I don't believe it'll kill the industry. And the reason why is because, Sneed, you spoke earlier about you grew up as a Nintendo kid, as did I, right? Like, obviously, you probably played others games, Sega games, Sony games, whatever. But one thing that I have always touted Nintendo's horn for is that when Nintendo releases a game, it is a full game, right? Like when I got Breath of the Wild is a full fucking game. Mario Odyssey is a full game. Whereas a lot of these games, and you've seen this, someone says, "Hey, Sneed, I want you to give me your money," and then you get the game. You go, "Well, what is this?" "Oh, I need more money." Like, wait, what?
See, I think Nintendo's actually regressing on that now because you look at games like the new Mario Golf, which has less content than the previous one, like the Mario Party, which has less maps, and you got like Pokemon, which shipped with like a fraction of what should have been available.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like they're kind of rolling the ball back on that one a little bit because they used to be really good about that, but I feel like now they're taking shortcuts because they feel like I guess they won't be punished for it because they have so much goodwill with people or something.
Well, let's take Super Smash Brothers as an example. So Drex, Nintendo does not charge for all of the extra characters they add into the game, right?
Oh no, they do. So you pay. You can either pay for the character, or you can pay for that season's fighter pass, and it's like $20. So it's like you got five new DLC for $20, which so your total investment in Smash would be like $100. You paid $60 for the game, and then like $20 for each DLC pack. And this last character that's going to come out will be the last one. So total investment is roughly $100.
So, and how many characters did Smash release with day one?
Oh, fuck.
25?
It had like 70.
70?
Yeah, it was about 60. Someone can correct me in the chat. I think it was literally like 65 to 70 characters day one.
So what is going to happen when Nintendo releases the sequel to Smash? They only put 10 characters in and the rest are DLC.
Yeah, there's been lots of articles written about this, in particular about Smash, and they said, well, where do you go from here? Because you can't outdo Ultimate in terms of, characters, right? Because due to licensing and all that, that's why you can't always have all the characters you want. So either they got to just, shave off some characters and add in new guys or something, but you can't bring in every guy. And some people say they should just end it or completely reboot it. And Sneed, I know you've seen games that have rebooted. Tomb Raider being a great example, right? What do you feel about the reboots? Because this kind of goes into what Tim is saying. You go to a certain point. What if you start falling victim to the whole, well, we'll just do microtransactions? What do you feel would be the answer?
I do think Smash in particular is in a weird place because the base game itself is extremely expansive and the paid characters are pretty poor value proposition, but you gotta kind of get them. As far as where they go from here, I think if they just, I feel like the next Smash, like when they release the successor to the Switch, whatever that may be, I feel like the Smash they release on there will be a lot closer to Ultimate than people will like. Because there really isn't much farther they can go. I don't think they'll reboot it in any meaningful way. I think they'll just try to get it as close as possible and call it a day. People will buy it anyway.
My take is, okay, if they don't end it with Ultimate, and you and I both know how the industry works, right? When a game is as huge, Smash is the number 3 selling game on the Switch. It's Mario Kart 8, then Animal Crossing, then Smash, right? So they're going to keep making them because it keeps making huge amounts of money. It makes billions of dollars. If I were Nintendo and I couldn't get all those licensed characters, I would just go the opposite direction. I would keep all my, because you're always going to have your first party characters, right? Always. So you're going to have to cut guys. So the answer would be you bring in the people to smooth out the fans. Certain characters won't be there due to licensing, right? So you just get new characters, right? Because Sneed, we've dealt with this in fighting games for years, right? I'm sure you've played Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. You don't just keep the same roster game in, game out, right? Like you have your mainstays, and then you always get this new cast of characters. Killer Instinct is known for that. So I think that's what they're going to do.
I mean, a lot of the cast, majority of it's first party anyway, and they always have more they can pull from their first party.
Oh, absolutely.
You see a lot of all the Fire Emblem characters. They got infinite to pull from that.
Isn't that like insufferable?
They can make a whole fucking Smash game with just Fire Emblem characters. Honestly,
dude, you know what's funny is that there are so many Fire Emblem characters. They could almost just literally do like a game within a game, and just call it Smash Caliber, right? You remember Soul Calibur? And just make a game called Smash Caliber, and it's just all the swordies. Or hell, you can just say sword-based characters. Now you can add Sephiroth, Cloud. You got these other guys you can add in, and it's like you look at this, you're like, how the hell did this many of these sword characters get in the game?
And then they add in Tifa, and they reduce her breast size.
Ew, that's just fucking terrible. Well, you talk about Sneed is talking about just games in general and with microtransactions. Sneed, I want your take on this. I blame all the problems. Okay, just like I blame OnlyFans on simps, not the women. You can't blame women for anything that's going on because it is the simps who enable them. Likewise, Sneed, I want your take. Wouldn't you blame all of these stupid fans who are dumb enough to keep giving in and getting these microtransactions that as long as you keep buying in, the company's going to keep pushing them out, right?
Yeah, you see a lot of that with pre-orders too, but I don't think the microtransactions are as big of a deal as people make it out to be. Like if you look, so the price of a AAA game has been $60 since like at the N64, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since then, the dollar has taken a beating, inflation, whatever. But the game prices mostly remain the same. And instead of increasing it, they just externalize that inflation-based increase into, the DLCs or whatever. Like I do think there's tasteful, like paid DLCs and stuff, and then untasteful.
And I guess to expand on my the logic behind why I think the microtransaction is going to kill the game industry, because mobile games are really bad for pay-to-win mechanics. Right now,
have you seen how much Call of Duty Mobile makes? Billions.
Yes.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Wait, with a B?
It's not even a real game. Yeah, billions.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so build on that premise, console games for the most part have not bought into pay to win yet. Mobile games especially, right? Anything that's got a cooldown timer, you pay like the in-game currency to erase that cooldown timer. Right, Drex, you're familiar with that mechanic.
It's got to come over eventually.
It's gotta. It's because you make so much money on it. It's just got to come over eventually where you're playing like, could you imagine playing Animal Crossing and the game was completely unplayable without spending in-game currency? Like you had to wait for everything to cool down.
See, you know what I would do with that, Tim?
We have that. It's called Pocket Camp.
But Sneed, you know what I do in those situations? See, I just come from a different mentality, a different era, and I'm sure you're fully aware of this. Do you remember a time when if someone didn't like what was being presented to them, they just stopped coming? Do you remember that? Where they people didn't say, well, Sneed, I'm gonna keep doing it. No, fuck that. Sneed, after The Last Jedi, I told everyone, I said I'm officially done with Star Wars, right? And when I'm done with something, I'm done. I have never seen anything past that. That's the mentality I have, and I believe all people should have. If you don't like what is being presented to you, you just check out. You see what I'm saying?
A lot of people can't though. It's like crack.
Yeah, I think they're
That's being bitch made. That's being bitch made, man. Here's the thing. Sneed, what if the new Street Fighter comes out, right? We get to Street Fighter 6, and the game starts off with Ryu and Ken, and you're like, where's everybody else? And they say, hey, no, you got to pay us for every single fighter. You're like, well, I don't know if the fighter's going to be good if it's a fighter I like. Yeah, we know, but we're just going to keep on charging.
Sounds like League of Legends, yeah.
Yeah, right. but Sneed, under that model, if you were, let's just say you grew up with Street Fighter, right? That's what you do. You've been playing since Street Fighter 2. If you saw that model, wouldn't you just go, okay, that's where I bow out, right? Like, I'm not going to support this. The problem is there are too many people who just say, well, this is the in a sense, this goes back to your game, Sneed. The consumer has allowed themselves to be cucked by developers and publishers, right?
In a sense, yeah.
So you've heard of pay piggies, right? That's what consumers have become, pay piggies.
Yeah.
Neil Cuckman has bent over the Last of Us franchise and fucked it while we watched. And we still gave him money and said, oh yeah, let's buy part 2 because maybe it won't be that bad. And we're still going to buy part 3.
Support it.
You know we will.
Yeah. There's going to be, and that is the problem. So Sneed, the issue I have with gamers, and it's bothered me forever. Why are people still pre-ordering games? Why?
That's a good question. But I do think it gets complex when. So obviously, like you take Last of Us, where they taken a franchise and just absolutely bastardized and ruined it. Something like that's very easy to walk away from. But if you take a game like you said, Street Fighter, and you split up the fighters into like DLCs and stuff, but the game itself is actually good, I think that creates conflict where it's like, well, I'm getting fucked here, but the game is so good and I want to experience it. I think that one's a lot harder for people to get away from.
Sneed, it should be easy. A prime example. Sneed, what if someone told you you're in a relationship and your girl walks up and says, hey, Sneed, I'm just going to put the tip of this strap on in your ass, right? Just a tip. There's going to be nothing more but just the tip, just the head. Okay. If you're willing to say yes to that, then you and I both know where this is going to end up at, right?
Oh, it's going all the way in.
It's going all the way in. Is that any different than the girl who says, babe, I just want an open relationship? You are always given the option up front. If you are stupid enough to say, no, Sneed, I'm not going to take the whole D. I'm just taking the tip. That is the same with Sneed. I will tell you right now, I do not play games with microtransactions. I'm only made aware of them because I don't play mobile games, right? I was only made aware of them because people have told me and I've seen it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not a microtransaction. Oh, I don't do that. I don't pay for skins. Do you know who gets my microtransactions? My daughter, when she asks for Robux, right, to get new skins or some, I hear the Fortnite kids are buying like new dances. Now, Fortnite is free, so based on how much money you're spending, it's not terrible considering it's a free to download game. But it's still a form of cuckoldry, which I'm telling you, they just want people to just basically sit down, shut up, and consume, and that's why I don't want people to just be used. And that leads me to a question, kind of like which is attached to your game, which is, do you see a future where the games are more awakened, right? Like there's more like red pill games or games with red pill themes. Do you believe that's going to hit the market where it's not just going to be shut up and consume? Do you see that happening?
Honestly, probably not. Just because there's a lot of centralization of distribution networks. Because I've talked about this before, but take PC gaming, if you're not on Steam, you're not getting found. As simple as that.
Yep.
So if the political pendulum goes one way and they decide they don't like your stuff and you get off there, like you can't get any exposure, because there's another guy who makes politically unsavory games. I forget what he is or his name. He does the Jesus Reckoning game where you play as Trump and Jesus and kill gay people or whatever. He got booted off Steam, and I can't imagine he's making too much money now. Yeah.
Ouch. Do you remember that game that came out years ago?
Which one?
There was a game. Shit, you might remember it. There was a game. You weren't an incel, but you were basically like a mass school shooter type dude. Do you remember that game? What game I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Is that a
Active
Sandy
Shooter.
Hook simulator?
It might have been called Hatred. That's what it was called. Hatred. Did you ever
Hatred.
hear about that
Yeah,
game?
there's been multiple sorts of school shooter games that have been censored. I think the last one was Active Shooter, and it caused off a whole storm of steam controversy that finally had them come out and say, like, okay, unless something's like illegal or whatever, we're not going to remove it. Because before that, it was like, if somebody in the office didn't like your game, they just press a button and it's gone, and you didn't really have any recourse.
That makes sense. What is your take on censorship in the games media and just media in general? What is your take on that?
I mean, I'm obviously going to be biased because of the nature of my game, but I think the market can sort itself out. The whole
I would
vote
hope
with
so.
your wallet thing. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Well, I disagree with that one because there's always going to be more. There's always more simps than there are the true gaming fans. Drex, if CD Projekt Red announced tomorrow that they're going to make a sequel to Cyberpunk, the next headline I would see the very next day would be Cyberpunk 2 is breaking pre-order records. And I'm like,
Yep.
you guys, you
Yep.
fucking dumbasses. You didn't learn the first time, did you?
But see, Tim, this is a good thing. See, here's the thing. I don't, Sneed, I don't know if you know this, but I have a thing where I don't believe simps are people. I don't view them as human beings that need to be respected or loved or cared for. They are less than cannon fodder to me. I truly, dude, if you show me a simp or a cuck, I kid you not, I don't even view them as a human. And in the bull role, bulls don't treat cucks as humans, right? These dudes are sitting in the corner with you're in a hotel room, a cuck, while he's being verbally humiliated, is sitting in the corner with a bag of ice on his balls, and he has a chastity on his balls also, right? So he has chastity on his dick and balls, and they're sitting on ice, and he has a porcelain mask, right? She doesn't view him as a human being. I don't view him as a human being. They aren't people. And when it comes to this censorship and everything, and people out here buying games that they know they shouldn't, that's on. Like, dude, milk them. Look, Sneed. I would give the same advice to it if a chick came at me right now and said, "Yo, Drex, I started an OnlyFans, but I feel guilty milking simps." Don't feel guilty milking simps. They're not people. Milk them. Literally milk them for every last dollar they have, because that's how you solve the problem.
Honestly, that made me think. Sneed, if you ever decide to try and create another game, you should do the opposite. Make the most simp bait game you could think of. Oh, Koopa wants to know if there's if goblins are coming into your game. It's an inside joke. You don't have to answer that. But yeah, I would actually love to see you make like a I don't know, feminist march simulator.
I was thinking of a Feminist March DLC.
You gotta do that shit.
You get a pussy hat and you're like, yes, queen.
Yeah, I got the model made for it already.
Oh God, please tell me it looks something
That's
like Big
awesome.
Red. I know you've seen that super feminazi named Big Red, and she's just a screaming, angry feminist. They all want D. Dude, I love feminists because I know like deep down who they really are and what they really are, and it's all just for show, man.
Sneed, we have there's someone who's a friend of the show, who runs a website. It's Antifa abuse, right, Drex?
Yeah,
Man. Sneed, when these women are confronted by 3 or 4 black dicks, they get on all fours like any other woman.
They're all the same. Well, one of the things that I forgot to ask you, Sneed, you spoke about the digital marketplace. I forgot to ask you, what do you think about digital games? And there's this whole rising push in regards to you don't own your game, even though you paid for it. And that's why a lot of people are saying, yo, man, I kind of want that that physical release, right? So that way I know I own the game. Even if no more updates are done, it's my game. At least it's playable.
Well, I'm a big enemy of strictly digital marketplaces only because they save a lot of money on production and distribution, but charge you the same amount.
I've always had that beef. Let me ask you this: where do you think that comes from?
I mean, people have it anchored in their head that a game is $60, so I mean, they're going to pay it anyway. So, like you said, milk them, right?
Yeah, it's that bothered me way back when, because I remember when we first started getting this whole idea of digital games and stuff. The only time I've ever bought digital games in my entire life was on Switch, and of course the reason for that is that the system is portable, right? So walking around carrying a bunch of games didn't make a lot of sense for something that's portable. But as I started seeing some of these stories come out, I was kind of like, I don't know, man. Like don't get me wrong, the big games I own the actual little game card, right? Like Mario, Zelda. But it made me nervous. I'm like, what if I spent all this money on these games, right? And depending on who you are, man, you could have spent thousands, right? 30, 40, 50, $60 a pop over the lifespan of a console or lifespan of your Steam purchase. What if you spend all that money on a game and then servers go down? They say, oh yeah, your games are gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that's going to happen anyway with a lot of these new, like at least for like multiplayer games. Like it doesn't matter if you have the physical game if the servers go down anyway.
Correct. The single player experiences, I believe, are going to remain the same. Like, I mean, you and I both know if I said, hey, Sneed, you want to fire up the original Mario Party on N64, well, nothing stops you because you're not online, right? It's just there's the game, boom, you're playing it.
Oh God, do you guys remember when EA bought Maxis and released that garbage SimCity game? What was that, like 9-10 years ago? And in order to play the game, you had to always have an active internet connection.
Yeah, always on,
so that it could verify the digital license. Wasn't Xbox thinking of doing something like that too?
They did at launch, Xbox One, and they had to walk it back. It ruined their launch, and that's how PS4 hopped on and really took advantage of them.
Well, they did make that based commercial, right? The Sony executives are like, "Here's how you here's how you trade a game with a friend." He just hands them the case.
Yep. Well, and that's all it takes. Sneed, do you recall years ago? We're kind of starting to see history repeat itself. Do you recall the disastrous E3 reveal of the Sega Saturn? Do you remember that one?
No, that was before my time.
Oh, well, in a nutshell, Sega thought they were going to be real slick, and they go, hey, the Sega Saturn, and guess what, guys? It's on sale now. Like, wait, what? And Sony, and so they had the cost of the system, right? Sony shows up right afterwards, and they just said the price of the system of the PlayStation, which, if I recall, was $50 or $100 cheaper than the Saturn, right? And that it literally killed the Saturn at launch, just because of that. Just by saying, "Here's our price." Like, so we have a system that we believe is better than this Saturn thing, and it's cheaper. Game over. And that was it. Sega Saturn died. Just like you guys, you remember when the Dreamcast died with the when PS2 went to launch, and of course that basically ended Sega in the hardware space.
Yeah, Sega was kind of cursed since the Genesis. Yeah.
Is there any part of you that kind of misses that, like that Genesis era?
I did play all the Sonic games, and the 3D ones don't even come close. But you can't be a Sonic fan nowadays. It's got a weird community, man.
Well, I got a question for you. Speaking of Sonic, did you watch the Sonic movie?
No.
Oh, you know what? I suggest you watch it. I don't know if it's still on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you have it, but if someone could let me know. I saw it in Portland, and it was me, a lady friend, then our mutual friends who are married. And so it's the guys saying, hey, man, we really want to see this movie. This is going to be great. And the girls were like, Sonic. They came out absolutely loving it. And then I told Nick about it, and I saw it a second time, which is rare for me to ever see a movie in theaters a second time. But like, we went out with the family. So, me, my daughter, Nick, and all of his kids and the wife, and his kids loved it. I think you'll really like it, man. Give it a shot. I think you'll genuinely like the movie because there was no wokeness.
No, I enjoyed the movie. I really did. And Jim Carrey nails Dr. Robotnik.
Nails it.
I'm telling you, you can separate, because Jim Carrey went a little crazy lately with his anti-Trump wokeness, but I can separate that Jim Carrey from just the actor, because I adore. Jim Carrey has a very unique acting style, and he can just nail characters that no one else can play.
All right, I'll give it a watch.
Sneed, something came up right before the show, and I want your take on this. Since you are Mr. Cuck Simulator, have you seen or heard of a rise of a very disturbing trend? The rise of the black cuck.
I've heard rumblings of it, but not actually experienced.
It's like a Bigfoot.
Sneed, let me tell you, man. It's like a different kind of low, right? Like when you see your buddy and he's going down the wrong path, and you're like, he can still be redeemed. You're like, yeah, he's going down the wrong path, but there's a redemption. It's like that old South Park song from the movie when it's like, you can't be homeless on the street getting ham jobs for crack. Once someone starts doing jailhouse favors for drugs, they're too far gone, right? They're giving gum jobs because they lost all their teeth from meth. You're like, yeah, man, I don't know that guy anymore. That's what a black cuck is to me. Like the lowest life form in history. Like it's bad enough that you're a cuck, but you're a black cuck. Like in cuck porn, 90% of the time it's a black dude and a white chick, or sometimes it's a white guy, white chick, right? But there's always that interracial aspect. But once we started finally seeing black cucks, I'm like, bruh, ugh, a black cuck, man. It disgusts me because here's the thing: cuckoldry in itself disgusts me. So it's like, I don't want to see anybody be a cuck. Have you ever heard of a show called Strange Love?
No.
Well, there's people with all these fetishes. Nick and I had to sit through and watch some dude named
actually, yeah, I've seen a few of those episodes actually. Now that you mention it, I just looked the show up.
Yeah. Okay, do you remember? Do you ever just like watch that and you see some of these people, and you just kind of look at them like, how did you become this guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, how much of it is real? How much of it is drummed up for TV? There's a lot of weird shows like that, especially on like TLC and stuff.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Well, the guy that Nick and I watched named Fluffy, that's very real because I'm sitting on Pornhub and Spank Bang, and I shit you not, man. Okay, you know how something's already bad enough, but it's always worse if you have just like one little inside scoop on something. So had I seen some of these videos beforehand, I wouldn't notice the guy, right? I'm like, oh God, it's another cuck video. There's some, manlet in the corner. But once you actually see the video on that Strange Love or whatever, the fetishes, and you see that dude named Fluffy is an actual like porn, like well produced porn, and there he is being Fluffy as a cuck, and it's just like, oh, God. It's painful, man. It's so damn painful. But Sneed, I do have a question for you before we get out of here. What's next on your docket? What do you have next planned for Team Sneed?
Well, I've been working on the next patch for Cuckold Simulator, hoping to get that out within maybe 2 weeks. That's probably idealistic though. But there's so much I can do with this game. I'll probably just do that for a while. I was thinking of making a Cuck Souls offshoot if anybody's interested in that for like $1 or something.
Well, you already did the mask, right?
Yeah.
The mask DLC.
Oh yeah.
I love how you made the character so fucking useless in Cuck Souls, but honestly, if you were to throw an average city dweller an AR-15 into Zombie Apocalypse, they'd take 10 minutes trying to figure out how to take the safety off.
Yeah.
Like, it's surprisingly accurate.
Now, when I was trying to animate the gun and everything on him, it wouldn't line up right. And then I realized, oh, actually this is fine because he wouldn't hold the gun properly anyway.
Yeah, he tried to hold it like Arnold. He's like, look at me, I'm a Terminator.
Yeah.
Not acknowledging
If you
kickback.
think about it, it's really impressive what you can do with it, honestly.
These fucking cucks, man.
But that's exactly how someone like that would handle a real firearm. They'd be more of a danger to themselves than whatever they're pointing at.
Yeah, it's like that old article where it's like, it was loud and scary. I didn't like it.
Well, see, now I forgot to ask you, what have women said about the game? Have you talked to any ladies who have talked about it from their perspective?
Actually, no. I only know of like one girl who's played the game.
Is it Amaranth?
She's like 16 or she's like 16 or something. So I don't.
Oh, yeah. So like people who are on the outside, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a proud cuck. I'm a happy cuck. I don't gatekeep my girlfriend. But then, at night they go and pop a bunch of antidepressant meds. Do you think that's a thing?
I don't think the majority of them actually enjoy it. I do think it's one big cope.
Yeah. It makes sense, but
I agree with Sneed 1,000%. Sneed, I've been around these dudes, and I promise it's
But
all.
I do think after a while, I think your brain chemistry can get fucked up to the point where you do derive actual pleasure from it, and at that point, you're totally lost.
Yeah, there's no redemption arc for
the
you.
brain rewires itself in weird ways, right? Like a girl who gets raped develops a rape fetish, that sort of thing.
We got a guy here who claims to be so degenerate he can't even jerk off to humans in porn anymore.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on what porn has done to the average male in that regard. Like people need some really fucked up shit to get off nowadays, whereas it used to just be like a Playboy magazine or something.
Oh, now it's all hentai, right? Like we know that like the younger people are all looking up hentai now.
Yeah, no, it's really bad when like you got these like 12, 13, 14-year-old people and like their first exposure to like sexual things is like some foodish shit on some like Discord. It's not a good entry point because you have nowhere to go but down from there.
Yeah, and no, we're not going to ask the question because that's Nick's thing, but we have our own version of that question. Are you familiar with Redo of Healer?
No.
No? Oh man, that's a great show. It's a revenge fantasy. Just summed it up. It's an ecchi revenge fantasy. Like literally the second episode is the main character cock slapping this bitch to put her in her place.
That's nice.
Anyways, there's a scene where he violates her with like he threatens to violate her with a hot poker from the fireplace. And we always ask people, would you use the poker or not? But you have to see it to kind of get it. Do you watch a lot of anime or just maybe just a little bit?
Just a little bit. Yeah. Not a ton.
Mostly
but
like
as
shonen.
Western media degenerates even more, I might start watching more.
Well, I mean, look, Sneed, we have a guy, the same dude, who's reached a different level of degeneracy. And it's not just the fact that he's not jerking off to humans or tentacle porn even. Like, have you ever heard of anybody, and I do mean anybody, who jerks off to goblin amputee porn?
I know they exist, but I've not personally encountered one.
You ain't shit. You knew it existed.
Look, Rule 34 is an actual website. You can find a lot of fucked up shit there.
Look, man, I don't know where you guys are finding this shit. Look, man,
Google,
like real life
Google
women.
Showed it to me.
Well, Sneed, it's funny you talk about even with the cuck simulator. One of the things that I forgot to touch on that doesn't get spoken about enough is the wage cage. And you talked about some of your married friends, or it sounded like they were married. And do they feel that that's literally what they are? It's just basically a wage slave, literally.
I think a lot of them feel that way, but they won't admit it. They say everything but it, in a way. No, I mean, I'm a wage slave too at the end of the day, right? I'm not making that much money from this game.
Oh, no, but here's my thing. If we all have to work to make money to survive, right? But where my issue comes from is when the money you make is not your money to enjoy, right? Like, so I'll give you an example. Anime Matsuri's coming up in a few days, right? I'm gonna hop over, take a trip. You've been around married guys. They have to ask their wife or girlfriend for permission. And it's like, so the money they make is not even their money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see a lot of that. It's bizarre. It's like, yeah, sure, the wifey lets me do blankety blank. Like,
yeah,
are you your own person or not?
Right?
Sneed, just do it.
You have no agency.
Well, Sneed, do you know what I've noticed about guys who are in that cucked position? It's word choice. When they speak, they always say "we." You ever notice that they never say, like, when you first knew them, when they were your friend, it was always "I," right? Even if they had a girlfriend, they still use "I" when it pertained to just something that involved only themselves. Now it's everything. Everything becomes "we," and yet when it comes to spending money,
about a joint Facebook account.
Oh, is that a thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought you had to have your own, right? Is this new?
No, Drex. You could literally make like an account for just your family, like the Johnson family.
Oh, Jesus. Really?
Right. Well, I mean, Drex, would you ever get a joint bank account?
No.
These dudes are bitch made.
And here's the thing that bothers me. Sneed, I'll tell you why I go so hard at bitch made dudes, because they live in a world of double standards, right? So let me give you an example. You just said, Sneed, I gotta ask the wife if I can. Okay, that's what he says, right? But do you notice when these wives do something, they tell the husband, right? Oh, I bought these shoes.
So it's a one-way street.
It's a one-way street. So when you point this out, happy wife, happy life. Ha. No, this is unacceptable. See, Sneed, Rex, I believe these people need to be eradicated.
Yeah, you have said once you say that sentence, you can't be brought back.
Yeah, Sneed, what is your take on that? Do you believe a man can be brought back once he says happy wife, happy life?
Probably not. It's a complete surrender of agency.
And Sneed, let me ask you this. When you're dealing with your friends, and you said earlier how Cuck Simulator hit somebody a little too close to home, because these cucks are here's the thing. There's a level, what you said earlier about what your brain needs in order to justify something and to cope. The cuck is just as in level of self-denial as a feminist, because a feminist will tell you, and I know you've encountered this, right? They will try to convince you by basically they're trying to convince themselves that they are happy not having kids, not being married, having 19 cats living in the house, and their career. And they're trying to convince you of how happy they are. And you're looking at them like, I can tell you're not happy. Right?
Yeah. I've seen these sorts of women who essentially say that they want to be a trad wife without actually saying they want to be a trad wife.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I've heard that, right?
They describe the lifestyle they want. And it's like, wait, that's a trad wife lifestyle. You don't want that, but you do.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is that when they try to have it both ways, right? They try to do the whole, like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do and go out for girls' nights out and do everything. And then they start doing this, because what happens is, like, they can't make a sound decision and stick with it, right? Like, they can't say, I want to be X or I want to be Y. It's always, well, Sneed, I kind of want to go out and do this at times, and I don't want a man to tell me what to do. And then other times, what happens? Whether it's like their ovulation cycle. Sneed, I just want to be taken care of. I just want to like stay at home with the kids. Wait, so which one is it? Right? Like,
yeah,
they're lost.
There's a war at place to kind of overwrite the natural instinct there. So I think at their core, I think every woman would just wants to sit back and look pretty and get taken care of. It sounds like a nice life to me.
Yeah, I would say 95%. Only 5% of women are truly hateful, angry feminists, because the rest of them, they were just unlucky in relationships. And rather than taking any accountability, they just blame men, right? They just literally go around life just saying, it's all men's fault. Fuck men, the patriarchy. But yet, you've seen this, or I'm sure you've heard of it, where the hardest feminists, what kind of guys are they attracted to? The same women that say they hate men. Who are they attracted to that they will bend over for in a heartbeat?
Well, women are attracted to that they hate, right?
Yeah, like
I see,
you heard of
like,
the Donald Trump rape
you
fantasies,
see,
right?
you see, like, like angry black women on Twitter who say, "Oh, fuck all the colonists," but like they have like fantasies about that sort of thing.
Oh, they simp hard for
Yeah.
white zaddy.
It's very disingenuous.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very
Like, and
It's
you know
so
what?
fucking bad.
Yeah, Koopa. Well, the thing is, I've told guys this. I said, look, man, when you simp, women don't look at you as a real man. So if a woman is saying, "Oh," you see this in the black community a lot, and also the Indian community, where in the black community, you just have way too many simps. I mean, the black simps are just insufferable, and it's like you do know that course of action is not going to help you, right? Like kissing up to women does not get you laid. And when you ask these simps how dry is their dick, they can tell you, right? It's bone dry.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
just
funny because I have the inside scoop on this because I'm friends, like legitimate friends, not some weird sim shit with like two e-girls, I guess you call them. They have like a Patreon, OnlyFans, all this sort of shit. So I get to hear all the stories,
Oh God.
and they are very delusional about their own life and their own life trajectory as well. It's very sad to watch, but it's kind of amusing at the same time.
We've had women as guests on this show before, and every single time they say, "Do you respect the simp?" No, I do not.
Yeah,
I mean, I love it when he
It's just
showers me with
cash
gifts
cow.
and money, but they do not respect him. And I've always said that you can't have a relationship that is not based on respect.
it's
It
impossible.
won't work.
No, they can use these guys, Tim.
Yep.
The easiest thing for a woman to do is use a simp, right? Okay, a woman using a simp is the same as a man using a prostitute. There's no difference. Oh, I'm just going to use it for sex. Cool. And a woman
just
sees
gonna
a
use it
simp.
for
Oh, I'm
money.
just going to use it for his wallet. Cool. No
So-
emotional attachment whatsoever.
Well, anyways, Team Sneed, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming on the program. Well, if you can hang out for a bit, I've got an email that I wanted to bring in. We got it after last show because I think we made a passing reference at the Kick Vic people, and someone wrote in about Mars Girl, Drex.
Oh,
Uh-oh. So this guy writes in, says he has firsthand knowledge of Kick Vic adjacent leech, Mars Girl. Back in 2006, I discovered a small gaming site called ScrewAttack.com. You know the site, right?
I think I've actually heard of that.
Yeah, I think... Oh man, I'm not sure on this. I might sound like an idiot here, but I think Screw Attack was actually absorbed by Rooster Teeth. Because didn't they used to make they used to make like a series, Death Battle, I think that's those guys, right?
Maybe.
Yep. Tax says yes. So yeah, I do have the right group. So, Death Battles where they just like pit these video game and anime characters against each other. They answered a question like, who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? It's kind of like the rap battles too. It was kind of weird. Anyways, yeah. So Screw Attack. If you want to know, Drex, where all these people are connected to, because obviously Rooster Teeth did Vic real dirty, right? Monica emailed the CEO, and he's just like, "Oh my God, Monica, I'm so sorry this happened to you." Next thing you know, Vic gets fired.
Of course he does.
So, anyways, and of course, we learn later that the actual perverts in that company are the ones who are messaging allegedly underage fans and sending videos of themselves getting pegging themselves on like a strap-on or a dildo.
Yeah.
Fucking Kovic and Haywood. Anyways, so yeah, he describes Screw Attack as a retro gaming news site famous for hosting the angry video game nerd, and that's where he met Mars Girl. He also makes a note that says the only thing stronger than her rotten crotch funk is her desire to make a living being internet famous.
I believe it.
Now, there were popular female creators in the community, but the site was mostly red-pilled and didn't tolerate thoughterry, which is why the community cast Begone Thought on her when she decided to be a con-slut at the Screw Attack gaming convention. Quick side note, Screw Attack and Xbox Live community... Oh, sorry. Screw Attack had an Xbox Live community where we'd get together and play games. And shortly after the Mars Girl consulate incident, we were playing Borderlands, and a community member told us he regretted not going to the convention because he really wanted to hook up with Mars Girl. So they ended up kicking and blocking him on the community.
What?
He really wanted to fuck Mars Girl.
Why?
I don't know why. Drex, have you ever wanted to go after a woman you know has had like 800 men run on her?
Well, as a general rule of thumb, I don't want women like that's just not how I'm built. Like, I understand what you're asking, but it's like when you've always had women, you don't really desire it. It becomes easy. It's kind of like if I ask Sneed, hey Sneed, you were born into billions, right? Money has a different value to you now because you've always been around it, as opposed to a thirsty simp or an incel where that's their golden ticket. That's their golden prize. So I don't know how these guys can desire some girl who is just some ran through thought. Like, ugh.
See, a normal person would be like, okay, like, I mean, look, if I run into her at a bar and she's DTF, yeah, sure. I'll put a few drinks down and I'll bang it out and we'll call it a day. But to actually say like, oh, I lust after her. Like, what's wrong with you, man?
That's pathetic, man.
Anyway, after realizing the Chads of Screw Attack wouldn't bite on her bait, she moved over to that guy with the glasses, / Channel Awesome, and found the simps there. Mars Girl's whole personality is anime, and they love anime. She decided to recreate a famous short skirt panty upshot scene in one of her videos. Upon seeing her 30-pound overweight ass crammed into the two small granny panties with these ghostly pale thunder thighs and varicose veins popping through her silk stockings, the community openly encouraged that shit, and it only got worse as she kept making sexy outfit videos showing off her gut and saggy 50-something breasts on her then 20-something body.
Ugh.
Despite all of this, Drex, the simping was strong.
That was an email?
Yeah, someone sent this email in describing what Mars Girl did circa 2006.
So I just Googled Mars Girl. So she docks Yellow Flash, and it seems like she's done quite a bit.
Yeah, she's a Kick Vic person. She's been very vocal in the going against Vic Mignogna. That's
just sad on every level. You know what, though? Is anyone surprised? And Sneed, what do you think about this whole push of not just Kick Vic, but like all this whole Me Too, anti-male this, that, everything has to be woke and, respect women. What is your take on all this whole push?
I don't understand it because due process and all that. Like, just because a woman says something doesn't mean it's true. I'd argue, especially women, because they're more prone to hysterics. I'm sure I'll get in trouble for saying.
Yeah, that is. Wait, she's the founder? Oh, yeah. So the Kick Vic founder is Mars Girl.
Yeah, so she is a social media influencer, so I'm guessing that she started the hashtag or was one of the more prominent people to promote that hashtag. The whole Kick Vic thing. Because the person who started the Kick Vic was a Japanese fan who actually had the wrong she made an accusation against Vic, but she had the wrong person. But then Monica jumped on and said, "Oh yeah, he's a scumbag. Here's what he did to me." Hashtag me too. The Japanese woman who did I forget her name. But the Japanese woman who started the accusations against Vic, it started with a tweet. It was at Funimation. It said, "Hey, why do you employ a known predator?" Oh, she was, Leximus is right. She's an American living in Japan. Like I said, I forget her Twitter handle, but she started that accusation against Vic by saying, no, I don't think it was Renfamous. But she tweeted at Funimation, "Why do you employ a known predator?" And then people started piling on him. And then Monica comes out and says, "Well, Vic attacked me." And then, of course, Ron, by the way, Sneed, you've heard Ron Toye's name come up before in a couple of the interviews. So Ron Toye is like the 8-year fiance of the woman who accused Vic of assaulting her. First of all, I want you to just comment on the idea of being an 8-year-long fiance.
Either do it or don't, right?
Yeah. So the whole snack tray thing, because I know someone mentioned the snack tray on Nick's interview. It's kind of poking fun.
On the little bits and pieces.
Yeah, that and the remote control. Oh god, the remote mod has to happen.
See, these guys are less than the scum of the earth, man. These between snack trays and everything, these guys are awful. And they're always the abusers. I don't know if you've noticed that. Every time that they bring up these people, they're always the abusive ones.
Well, it's a power thing, right, Drex? Because the default in a relationship between a man and a woman is that the man has the physical power. But if you're a soy boy, bitch-made beta cuck, you don't have that power anymore. So you need to resort to physical violence in order to get your way. So these are the men that are screaming at women, that are like telling them like, you can't go out with your friends without me knowing about it.
Yeah, well, they're just devoid of masculinity is all it is. So if you have a bunch of guys who are devoid of masculinity, what do? They try to take it through feminine means, not masculine means. So if you look at a lot of these incel shooters and all that kind of stuff, people think that this is a masculinity problem. No, it's a lack of masculinity problem. They have no male life coping skills. They have no survival skills. So they just lash out. If you think about it, though, Sneed, could you imagine if women had the power and strength of men? Could you imagine just like how scary of a world you would have? Women and their emotions. It'd be terrifying, right?
They'd all be in UFC. It'd be hilarious.
Well, you kind of have that now with people taking estrogen, right?
Yeah, the trans weightlifters and the trans UFC fighters.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Sneed?
Drex and I agree on this one. It is our favorite thing in the world to see.
Now, Sneed, I am all in defense of these trans athletes because I'm sure you've seen the South Park episode Strong Woman.
Yeah.
Now, Sneed, if someone is all about their agenda, right? Do you remember 10 years ago what they called you? They called you a sexist, transphobic bigot, right? Is that what they said you were? Well, let's fast forward. What are they now? Right? These are the same people that said, you remember when guys were saying, hey, man, you can't have a guy identifying as a woman be into a woman's sport because of these reasons. This is dangerous. No, you're just a bigot. How dare you read? Now here we are 10 years later, and they want men to step up and fix the problem, right? And guys are like, nah, I'm good. Nah, stop being so transphobic and bigoted, right?
We're watching these like trans rugby players fucking demolish women.
I think it's beautiful. Sneed, I actually want them to die. I'm not being. I'm not saying that metaphorically.
I think it's in a way like that. That one girl who had her skull bashed in, like her skull was literally bashed in, like
the Fallon Fox fight
or something.
Yeah, that was the UFC fight with Fallon Fox. Now, Sneed, now be honest. Deep down, you want to see more of it, right? Because then what do you do?
Accelerate, right?
You accelerate, right? Like so watch this. How about this? Next season, LeBron James identifies as a woman and goes into the WNBA. Don't you want to see that? I do.
I'd like to see the 1v. I'd like to see the 1v5.
Oh, you like to see what?
The 1v5.
Oh, why does this thing? Your thing cuts out every time you say 1v.
Oh, yeah. I've had so much trouble trying to get Discord to work with the stupid voice changing. I was trying to say I think he could solo an entire women's team on his own.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 1v5. Yeah, absolutely. When you look at this.
Do you remember, they don't do this style of match anymore, but do you remember the stable matches back in like the Attitude Era of WWF?
Yeah.
God, I'd love to see that. Like a stable match of just like trans women versus regular women.
No, I want paralysis and death. literally, not figuratively. In Roblox. Here's the thing, Sneed. What if every top UFC fighter, male, just crossed over and said, "Oh, now I'm a woman," right? Or as you get to the end of your career, you can't compete against the guys anymore. You just say, "I identify as a woman," right? Nate Diaz becomes Natasha Diaz.
Well, so you remember, so Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt dominated their respective sports for 10 years, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine if everyone who came in second and below just is like, "Oh, I'm trans now. I can't beat Michael Phelps in swimming, so I'm just gonna I'm trans. I'm just gonna go compete with the women. Michael Phelps can have his gold."
Yeah, I think it's great. I want people to stop being so bigoted and transphobic and let these stunning and brave women and trans women come into the women's game. Because remember, Sneed, you have to understand right now, okay, that we're all equal, right? That gender is a social construct, right?
Oh yeah, of course, totally.
So when
someone
who looks like when Macho Man Randy Savage shows up at an event and says that he's a woman, clearly that is a stunning and brave woman with, of course, a very long clit penis is what that is.
Macho Ma'am Tranny Savage.
Yeah, Macho Ma'am. Sneak. You have to understand how beautiful that would look as these women get literally snapped in half in the most brutal fashion possible. And then what are they going to say? They can't say, "Oh, you can't," because I'm a woman. I know.
I think it's funny in a sense and also immensely sad because you have these women who've trained all their life in something and they just get destroyed by a man. It's so unfair.
But they wanted this. This is the world they wanted.
Yeah, Sneed, they wanted it, right? We didn't say this.
Not all of them. Not all.
But Sneed, you know why I say all?
They didn't fight.
That's my thing. So Sneed, I say all because I go like this. Here's my issue with women. Their hive mind, right? Their collectivist mindset. Now, women didn't say anything when there's a small percentage of women who were screaming and reeing to government officials to create and expand the family court. And the so-called quote-unquote good women didn't care, did they? They didn't say anything. Here we are. Those reeing women talked about all the trans agenda, right? And you keep these so-called good women, did they stand up and say, "We're not going to stand for this. We don't want these bad women to speak for us"? Nope. They shut up like they always do, right? They didn't do anything. So now they're getting exactly what they wanted. I want them. Listen, paralysis and death. I want nothing less. I don't even want cracked skulls. That's not good. I want paralysis. Permanent. Quadriplegic. Paralysis and death.
Little known fact. Drex, they don't allow women's hockey to throw body checks like they do with men's hockey.
That needs to change because we're all equal.
Because imagine how violent. Could you imagine how violent it would be to have a trans woman playing hockey against other women, and they allowed body checking?
Yeah, well now
they get destroyed.
Sneed, do you know what everyone's always leaving out? The way that you also throw it back in their face is you make sure that you always have an open tryout so they can compete against men, right? No, ladies, we're inclusive. Look, if you want to try out for the team, hey, come in. Oh, you say that we're being abusive. No. If you want to join our UFC team, right? We're American top team. Come right here, right?
Oh God!
Don't you want to be on our team?
Imagine like George St. Pierre beating down a woman,
beating her. I want Sneed savagery. I'm tired of everyone holding back. No. I want these guys to go all out. No, literally zero remorse. I want them to beat them like they stole their money and murdered their firstborn child. That's what kind of beating I want to see. Pure savagery. That's how you fix the problem, man. Anything less than that, you're just going to get more reams. So no, let them suffer. That's the bed they made.
All right. Well, we're running short on time here. Once again, Team Sneed, thank you so much for coming out and joining us today.
Thanks a million, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and don't forget, man, Sneed, add those bulls, man. Add bulls.
Oh, you customize your bull. You know how create a character, but customize the bowl instead.
not
It's
character,
Sneed. Don't be afraid to let the
That's
cuck
above.
take the girl in to get a Queen of Spades tattoo that you yourself have to draw with your finger or the mouse.
And I was thinking of having like a stand-in bull because Tyrone's in jail for now, so we got to fill the void with someone. So we could have like a little like a line, like a police lineup of bulls, and you have to pick one. Something like
Tyrone Jr. and was it Deshaun, right?
Deshaun,
and
yeah,
Tyrone Jr.
Is Deshaun based on anyone in real life, or is he literally just a figment of your imagination?
Deshaun's just what I imagine a delinquent Zoomer child with no father figure would turn.
Because he easily is my favorite character in the whole game.
Oh yeah, he's a fan favorite and my favorite.
How hard was it to get the dancing animated on him?
Not too bad. There's actually a publicly available file for it, so
Oh, of course.
I got lucky on that one.
Yeah,
Manually
I
animated that
guess
was
if it's as popular as the Floss, or was that called the Floss? Like we all
when
know
he
what his
starts off with
backpack
is
is.
the floss, and then he transitions into. I don't even think it has a name. The second dance he does, but it's also a Fortnite dance. I don't know what it is.
Fucking Fortnite. Anyways, oh god. Now what we usually do, Sneed, is any guest we feature prominently in our each month, we always bring them back in for a bonus episode to do a kind of MGTOW After Dark. Now, unfortunately, we're out of time tonight there. I gotta, Drex has got to get to bed. I got to get back to work. But, and then Anime Matsuri's coming up. So maybe after Anime Matsuri, we'll get you back in here. They release on the 25th of every month. We'll get you back in here again to do a bonus episode. And that's where we kind of take the gloves off, man. There is no censorship. There, we don't have to be clean for Susan Wojcicki, that horse face. And there's no time limit either. So we can just let it all out. So I hope you're interested in coming back on doing a bonus episode with us.
Yeah, definitely down for that.
Awesome.
Oh, don't forget,
I'll
Sneed,
follow up with you later.
Oh, and Tim, don't forget to tell our man Sneed. So Sneed, we're recording our Thought Girl Summer. So any stories that you have, whether it be about cucks or anything, about these hoes doing what hoes do, you are more than welcome to just drop Tim an email, and we can hop you in even for a segment. So you can go, even if you gotta, go somewhere real quick, you can hop in, tell us whatever crazy story you got to let these dudes out here know that these bitches ain't shit, and then keep it moving.
If you want to get a preview of what those stories look like, look up on our channel the 12 Days of Thoughtness. God, those are good stories.
Yeah, I can probably come up with something for that.
I bet you can, good sir. I bet you can.
Oh man, well, it's like Dollhouse Phil, right? Like Phil has stories that no one else would have access to because he sells dolls.
Phil's a national treasure. This is the point we've gotten to in society, Sneed. And Sneed, before we let you out, something that we've asked everybody on our Thought Girl Summer, from what you've seen with all your experience. As you know, I'm very anti-marriage. Sneed, do you believe there are any women out there that you would suggest these young guys go out there and marry?
Go to a church or something.
Do you know what happens? Do you know what church girls do?
Thought on a cross.
The church girls are the worst, right?
Yeah.
The Mormon girls.
So if you had a son, would you want your son to get married?
I do think.
Think about those laws.
I'm a fan of monogamy, but not the legal implications of marriage. It's a raw deal for the man. It really is.
Horrible deal.
Yeah. You can't even do a prenup anymore, Sneed, because the judge will say, she'll just go to the judge and say, "Oh, I signed it under duress," and the judge will annul it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you literally have no protection, none, zero protection at all. And that's why, I think that ties into his cuck simulator. That's how you get cucked.
I do think there's good women out there, but you're not going to find them in the places people frequent. Like you got people looking in, like bars and nightclubs, or going for like Twitch thoughts or something. Like you're not going to find a quality woman there. You're just not.
Oh no, Sneed, they're not anywhere. Because watch this. If I'm at the college, nope. Hospital, nope.
The Mormon church,
nope. Work, nope. So Sneed, I want you. Oh, look, military ran through hose. So Sneed, I want, and this reason why I mentioned this. Like, we had Vic Mignogna's mom on. Sneed, I want you to give me a place where the good girls hang out and go.
I don't have an answer to that, man. I can tell you where they don't hang out.
Okay, so therein lies my point, right? No one can name, because I've had people say, "No, Drex, I can." There's lots of good girls, and when I ask them, I go, "Where are they at?" Then no one has an answer. You can't say college, you can't say high school. We got stories.
Most of them are in Ken Jennings' basement.
Yeah, it's neat. There's no one that can visit my show and say, "I know where the good girls are," with a straight face, because they aren't there. You could get lucky and find a needle in a haystack. That's as good as you can get.
The unicorn.
I would agree with that. Yeah, yeah. The unicorns do exist, few and far between, but they are.
Yeah, few and far between. I would not ask men out there to roll the dice on that at all.
No, because look, for every Nick Rekieta, there is 100,000, people who got divorce raped in court.
And we'll continue to do so. So yeah, Sneed, you stay safe out there. Like I said, we'll definitely have you on whenever you want to come on with our Thought Girl Summer and tell whatever stories you want to tell. You are more than welcome. But yeah, we'll definitely let you out of here. It's about time for Nick's show. Yep. You do your thing, man. If you want anything you want to plug, go ahead and plug it.
No, I'm sure everybody already knows about where to get the game. That's all.
Look up Cuckold Simulator on Steam. How much is it?
Yeah, thank you. Doing it for me. $199, and it is 10% off for the next 2 days. Very large sale.
Oh, well, this episode will release Friday, so it'll be too late for that.
Yeah,
but for the guys in the live audience here, 2 days. For 2 days, you get 10% off.
Nice. Well, peace to everybody out there in the world, man. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, definitely go and download or buy Cluck Simulator.
Stay frosty, everyone.
Peace.